There we go. Welcome to the next of our live 2020 Bonitas Comrades Marathon online training seminars. My name is Brad. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. We've got the Comrades coach, Lindsay Parry, with us as well. Lindsay, how's it?
It is good. I made it back from London in one piece, so happy days.
Yeah, and it wasn't London that was the problem. You spent your Saturday afternoon at Anfield supporting Liverpool. That was where the issue might have come in.
Yeah, and then they cancelled the trains back to London on Sunday, so I did have a bit of a problem getting back. But yeah, I had so much fun, I was ready to move to Liverpool.
I love it. I love it. Lindsay was also in London last night for a talk, and to everyone who joined him at the Boathouse, yeah, by all accounts, it was a fantastic evening. Thanks for coming through. Also with us is a familiar face to those of you who follow Coach Parry online, but a debut on the Comrades Marathon webinar, Shona Hendricks. Shona, how's it?
Hi, Brad. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you on, and welcome to you. Wherever you're joining us from, we always love to ask where people are on these webinars. Please, if you wouldn't mind letting us know that you can see and hear us, even if you're not a Liverpool fan, it's okay. You can pop it into the comments. Let us know where you are. And also, if you wouldn't mind, let us know what number Comrades you're going for. If you're a novice, let us know. If you're going for your first down, but you've done the up, or if you are an old hat at this thing and you're going for green, or you've been around for longer than that, we'd love to know about it. So please do pop those in the comments. We'd love to hear you and greet you. And also, if you wouldn't mind, if you are in any Facebook groups, or if you've got friends who are on WhatsApp, please would you mind hitting the share button on this video and share it into those groups, or share it onto your Facebook timeline as well. It really helps us get in front of more people just like you, and helps us spread the message about Comrades and the training and the correct training in the build-up to Comrades Race Day. And also, as always, a massive, massive thank you to our sponsor, Bonitas, for making this broadcast and these webinars possible. It is hugely, hugely appreciated. So a massive thanks to them. And I'm just going to open up the chat bar so I can see. It looks like everything is up and running. We've got Nikki Hill is on. We've got Tracy Heinrich, who's watching from Joburg. Also a Comrades novice. How's it, Tracy? Nice to have you on. Mario Borchards, who's in Cape Town, also a novice. Dora Mashueche is going for number 3, joining from Midrand in Gauteng. So yeah, we've got someone in Richmond, Virginia. Blair Just, who's going for first Comrades. Welcome, Blair. It's great to have you on. Love Richmond, Virginia. One of my favorite theme parks just outside King's Dominion. Got the best roller coasters. I was there many years ago. I don't know if it's changed much, but yeah, love King's Dominion. So Blair, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We've got Glynis, who's joining us from England. Glynis is going for number 14 this year. So yeah, looks like everything's going well. Feli Shabalala, who's in Richards Bay, going for a back-to-back. So yeah, looks like everything is going awesome. Please do continue those comments. We'll be going through them throughout the night as well. Just to run through what we are going to be covering in this webinar, and we've got lots to get through tonight, so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to talk about where you should be right now within your Comrades training, what you need to focus on for the next 4 weeks. Also, why it's important to separate your marathons and your ultras, and the time between is really important. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on. And then very important for Comrades Downrun is strength training, and that's why Shona is joining us tonight. We're going to be talking specifically about strength training for the Comrades Marathon, so lots to come through. Nicholas says he's in London. He's wearing his mask. Nicholas, that's good. Stay indoors, wear a mask, don't shake hands, and you should be fine come the 14th of June. And then we've also got some resources to share with you as well. So that's coming your way as well. And that's, as always, we love questions and comments. You can pop them into the chat box below this video. We'll try and get to as many of them as we can. Please do understand that we've got a lot of people on this call, and we really struggle to answer specific questions for individuals. So like, how many kilometers do I personally need to do, and should I be doing this race or that race? We try and keep the questions as general as possible, but we will get to as many of them as we can to try and help as many people as we can on this webinar. So keep those questions coming. Okay, before we get into what we're covering tonight, who are we? For those of you who don't know, Lindsay is the official Comrades Marathon coach, and he has been for well over a decade. He has coached thousands upon thousands of amateur athletes like you and me to Comrades success from just under 12 hours right through to Comrades winners. He's got a couple of Comrades winners in his stable as well, so he really knows what he's doing. He's been to 2 Olympic Games and 2 Commonwealth Games as well, so tons of experience, and he's not a bad runner himself. He's a 2:45 marathon PB, which is phenomenal. If you've been on one of these webinars before, my name's Brad, and I still don't have a PB of 2:45. So, definitely nowhere close to that. Comrades has been part of who I am and what I do for a long, long time. My dad has run 11, and I grew up around Comrades, and I ran my first one in 2010, so 10 years ago. And I've got 3, and I'm going back, fingers crossed, if I can get my butt around a marathon course in under 4:50 in the next 3 months. I'll be going back for number 4 in 2020. And then I mentioned Shona Hendricks. She's the head of sports science at SEMLI at the University of Pretoria, which is a pretty big deal. She's also worked with some incredible athletes over her career. She's worked with all our female national football teams from under 17 level right through to our national senior women's team, Banyana. She's worked with local PSL teams, Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns, and Morocco Swallows as well. And she's also worked with one-on-one with some incredible athletes, Caroline Wassman being one of them, Comrades and 2 Oceans winner, as well as South African Olympic bronze medalist Bridget Hartley. She's worked personally with as well. So lots of credibility on tonight. Let's get straight into it. Lindsay, where are we right now? Where should we be if we are planning to run Comrades in 2020?
So, Brad, this is the first webinar where we really starting to get into the meaty part of the training. So, the previous webinars, I've stressed the fact that we're building towards the peak and it's creating the habit. But now we are actually arriving in March and we are getting towards the middle of March, which with the race now being in June, is we are arriving in peak training time, and that is important because it ties straight into what we're going to talk in detail about just now, in terms of why we don't want to be chasing seeding anymore and why we want some gaps between the big races. But right now, this is Comrade season. So Comrade season is upon us. We are going to be doing our highest training weeks over the next 10 to 12 weeks. And we, again, are going to preach consistency, and it really is about nailing week after week, month after month. So as we go through the different medals, peak mileage doesn't mean 100 kilometers plus for everybody. It means different things for different medals, which we're going to cover in literally the next slides. But then also, because we're going into this peak training period, all the kind of lessons that we've been giving in the previous webinars. So if this is your first webinar, go back and listen to those webinars because we really stress recovery and recovery modalities. We stressed that at the road shows where we went around the country. But you want to start putting those things into place now. In those talks, I said it's not about doing that every day of your life, but it's about doing it most of the time, and especially most of the time during these next 10 to 12 weeks, where you just make sure that you're getting enough sleep, that you are eating healthy, and that you are allowing your body to recuperate between big efforts. So that's where we are in terms of general terms. In the finishes, I'm still talking about people who have qualified and those who haven't qualified, although ideally you want to have qualified by now for Comrades or have your qualification being imminent, okay? And as I stressed in the previous slide, it's really about being consistent. So for the finishers, it's about hitting your 40 to maximum 60k weeks. You just bang them week after week after week after week. And if you haven't qualified yet, the important thing in that qualifier is to do the effort required to qualify. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if you are a comfortable 4:35 to 4:40 marathoner, then you are going to look to qualify in about 4:45, just over 4:45, because your seating is really hardly going to change if you run faster. But those 10 to 15 minutes faster that you run are going to bash up your legs. They are going to mean that you have to recover. They are going to mean that you're going to have to push out and delay the start of your peak training. Obviously, if you are in that position where a 4:49:59, you have to turn yourself inside out to get it, well, then that's what you got to do, because you got to earn your place on the start line. But then you want to make sure that you allow your legs to recover from that effort. So you'll take a week off, and then you'll spend a week just slowly getting back into it, and then you'll get into your peak training and you'll start to bash out those 40 to 60 Ks per week. So that's where you are planning to be now. If you are a finisher. If you are going for a bronze medal, you really should be qualified by now. And if you have the ability for a bronze medal, you will be able to qualify quite easily. And so for the bronze medals, there's only one lot of advice, and that is that we're moving into peak training period now. We are done with the racing. You're not going to chase seeding. And so if you still need to qualify, that qualification race is going to form part of your training week, and it's going to be a really long training run. And that's how you're going to deal with your qualifier. So right now, or if you've just qualified, then maybe you need a little bit of recovery now. So then you follow the same protocol. You qualified on the weekend of the 7th or 8th, and you pushed quite hard to get a seeding. Then you're going to take this week off. Next week, you're going to build up again. And then from week 3, you're back into full training. But if you haven't done your sort of race qualifier by the 7th, then when you do qualify, if it's on the 22nd of March, or if it's this weekend at one of, if you're running in Gauteng and you're doing Omdidam and using Omdidam as a qualifier, that's going to be as a training run and part of your training. And your peak mileage in bronze is going to be between 50 and 65, perhaps 70 Ks. Probably 70 Ks will be where most bronzes will end up, and you'll have the odd the odd week that's a little bit higher than that when you do a marathon or a ultra as part of your build-up, and we'll talk about those a little more in the next roadshow, or not roadshow, webinar. And then finally, one of the newer medals, the Robert Machali, so that is 9 to 10 hours if you are new to the race. And again, you will follow the same process. If you just raced for your qualifier and your seeding, you need to push that out, or you need to push out the starting of your peak training, but it's the same process. And once you hit your straps, you're going to be going about 70, I'd say 70 to maybe 80 Ks a week will be your peak mileage. And again, recovery really starts to become key now as we get into these faster medals and you are spending more time on the road. We really do have to focus on recovery. And then Bill Rowan, we're talking about 7.5 to 9 hours, and that's the top 25% of the field. So I am starting to talk to the elite runners. You're probably looking at in the region, or certainly a minimum of 80 Ks, probably around 90 Ks a week is going to happen in your peak mileage. So it becomes incredibly important to focus on recovery. And then finally, we get into the silver medals. And these are your antisocial guys. They're running at least 100 Ks a week. Most are running between 120 and 160 Ks a week, and you're talking about the top 5% of the field. So you really got to be getting your sleep. You really got to be pushing that recovery. But that gives you just an idea for that small percentage. And across the board, which I didn't mention, is that because we're doing the down run, it really is important to do some strength training across the board of the medals. And that is precisely why we have brought Shona in, and we will pull her into the presentation soon. But hopefully, there's a couple of questions that are built up, Brad.
Yeah, Lindsay, there definitely are some great ones already. So I'm going to just flick a couple on. Here we go. This is from Dwayne Martinitz. Dwayne is saying, I'm suffering from an ankle injury and it's taking some time to heal. He's been resting for 3 weeks now, meaning he hasn't trained for 3 weeks. Is that good or bad?
Sorry, you just broke up a little bit there, Brad.
He says, Dwayne says he's got an ankle injury. It's taking some time to heal. He's been resting it for 3 weeks, and that means he hasn't trained for 3 weeks. Is that a good or a bad thing? Is rest important if you have an injury, or should you be training through it?
No, so absolutely. Look, you can't train through a lot of injuries. And if it's been sore enough, you're not to be able to run 3 weeks, then running on it would have made it worse. You probably wouldn't even line up Comrades. And I think maybe a good stat to stress now, that's the perfect question for it, is that 68% of the people who do not finish Comrades do so because they start Comrades with an injury. So please do rest up. What you do need to do, though, is get guidance from a physiotherapist. So an injury that's taking that long to heal needs some physiotherapy, needs some outside treatment. And if it is a tendon or ligament injury, then the very last bit of the rehab will require some elastic stress. So whether that's in the form of some very specific rehab, or whether that includes some light jogging and slowly building up, you need to take guidance there from a rehabilitation specialist to figure that out. 3 weeks getting to the window where you do substantially start to lose fitness. So depending on the injury, you can do cross-training, things like cycling, rowing, elliptical, swimming. So find one of those cardiovascular exercises that doesn't cause pain to the ankle, but it will help you to hang on to your fitness. Because 1 week of rest makes very little difference to a program, and you can go on training, you won't have lost any fitness at all. 2 weeks, very minor impact, but the impact would be overshadowed by your freshness. So if you've missed 2 weeks of training, you'll still actually probably feel better because you will be so fresh in short term. 3 weeks is where we start to slide down the precipice. So ideally you want to start soon, but you can't afford to start without the injury being sorted out. So you may want to do some cross-training, and you definitely want to be consulting with a rehab specialist.
All right, cool. Lindsay, and that obviously Dwayne's injury was specific to him, but Ace Bjorn was asking, will an injury, and it doesn't matter what injury it is, will it cost you your Comrades now if you get injured? And you pretty much said it there, that if you are injured, you need to get treatment as soon as possible.
Yeah, so if you're injured now, it's not going to cost you your Comrades. But if you are injured when you start Comrades, it's going to cost you your Comrades. So the longer you persist training with an injury, the more chronic it will become, the longer it will take to heal with treatment. The sooner into the injury cycle that you treat that injury, the less time you're going to miss training, the better chance you've got of finishing. And obviously, again, having shown on tonight, it's perfect for these guys because they could possibly be doing some strength training now already, but they certainly want to be doing strength training afterwards, because that'll help prevent injuries that may come later on.
We're going to jump into that strength training now, but a great question from Jenny, Lindsay. Jenny saying, how should cross-training be adapted for the next 3 months?
Look, it's a good question, but it's also extremely vague. So it's quite difficult because I don't know what programs Jenny's on, and I don't know how much cross-training doing up to this time. But as a general rule, I always encourage people to add cross-training, and I would include strength training as cross-training. But I would encourage people to add cross-training into their program before they add more running. So running more is not necessarily going to give you the best training adaptation, and most of the Comrades programs that we provide are 4-day-a-week training programs. So for the majority of people, that means that there are 2 days that are available there for cross-training on, and you can also add some cross-training, although then it would be shorter in duration, maybe 25 to 40 minutes tops. If you add onto one of your existing running days, one of your short running days, you could then also add a short swim, easy cycling or something similar to that. So
hopefully that just gives you a little bit of an idea. But I wouldn't cut back on cross-training now unless you're really struggling with fatigue. Then you may want to look at one day a week instead of 2 days a week. So there needs to be some flexibility, but I certainly would discourage people from stopping cross-training now.
Lindsay, can I ask you a favor? There seems to be some bit of feedback on your mic. So if you wouldn't mind just moving your mic away from close to where the speakers are on your Mac. If you wouldn't mind also just turning your volume all the way down, the audio, where you can hear me, and then you can turn it up slightly because that's what's causing the feedback apparently on the Facebook feed. The good news is there's nothing on the recording. So you can catch this back after the fact. You'll be able to listen. So I'll just give Lindsay a couple of seconds to do that. If you wouldn't mind turning that down, that should take a few seconds. There is a bit of a delay on the broadcast, so that should sort it out with time as well. So hopefully that will sort it out. I see a lot of people still saying that the echo is quite bad. Hopefully that will improve it. If not, I will just ask you to unplug that mic. I think that might solve the problem as well, and we can just go straight onto the mic on your computer. The quality won't be as good from a mic perspective, but it will be slightly better without the echo, I think. So if you want to turn me up just enough so that you can hear me, and then we can take it from there. So hopefully that sorts out the echo. Let's go straight into strength training, and let's bring Shona in here. If I could just ask you in the comments if that has improved the echo, please let us know. If not, we'll unplug that microphone on Lindsay's side, and we'll take it from there. So, I'm just waiting to see if any other comments come through. It would be hugely appreciated. Let us know. Just give us a thumbs up or a love. You don't have to give us a comment if you don't want to, but just give us a thumbs up or a love. That should let us know as well that things are working the way they should. All right, Shona, let me bring you in here. Okay, so Malcolm is asking if you can repeat what you were saying about cross-training. So I'm taking it that the echo is gone. Lindsay, would you mind repeating what you said about the cross-training?
Yeah, so what I was saying with cross-training is that I'd rather people added cross-training program rather than more running. But in terms of exactly how to adapt it to this specific question, that's quite difficult because I don't know anything about program, previous history of cross-training or not. But most of the comrades, as a general rule, most of the programs are 4 days a week. So that provides 2 days in the week where they can cross-training, and I include strength training as cross-training. Strength training, elliptical, swimming, rowing, stairmaster, cycling. Those are all forms of cross-training. So two of those three, let's call them rest days on the training program. They can be used for cross-training. Similarly, depending on how your life is structured, you can add easy cross-training onto some of your shorter running days in the week. So you may prefer to keep your rest days and just do 2 sessions a day on those other days, and that is also fine. And then the final note training is that as you do hit the peak training, I wouldn't encourage you to cut back on the cross training. However, you need to monitor from week to week, and if you do find that you really are tired and struggling to get training, then you would remove some cross training before you start removing running, and that will just give you that little bit of extra recovery time.
Okay, Lindsay, there does seem to be a terrible echo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Shona in while we're working through Shona. If I could ask you to just disconnect from Skype, unplug your mic, and then I'll call you back while Shona's on, and then we can bring you back in, and hopefully that will sort it out. Everybody thinks you've swallowed the mic or picked up the coronavirus while you're in London. So, I'm going to mute you if that's cool, or I'm going to hang up on you and bring Shona in, and then come back on you. So, Shona, let's jump into the strength training. Just a bit of housekeeping, folks. Just if you wouldn't mind just bearing in mind that we're doing this on the fly. All three of us are on the call at the same time. It's not as simple as just stopping the recording and getting it back on, because we'll lose the feed and we'll have to get everybody onto a different feed. So we're going to try and just mute Lindsay, and then we're going to get Shona in, and then we'll get Lindsay back up for the rest of it. So, all right, let's get into that strength training, Shona. strength training is something we speak about it quite often here at Coach Parry. Why is strength training so important for runners?
I mean, it's really twofold, Brad, and one is neither more important than the other. And I think first and foremost, the thing that you need to be looking at is that it's important because of injury prevention. So we're trying to help you sustain the loads of running. You know, like Lindsay mentioned, you guys are running anywhere from 40 k's up to 100 k's a week, and we're needing to ensure that the body is strong enough to sustain. That's really what we're trying to do. And then the secondary side to it is performance oriented. We want to use something like Lindsay just said, training to complement the running, to make your running better. That's actually running, because running more isn't the answer. And so strength training as a component of cross training is definitely something that can improve that. So if we maybe just go a little bit more into the details of why those are important. I mean, the injury prevention. I mean, running is such a repetitive, pounding sort of motion all the time that if your joints and your muscles and the musculoskeletal
right, Shona, sort of, I'm going to just try and see if I can fix this on my side. I might need to put some headphones in. Let me try this.
Sure.
Because it seems like it might be echoing on your side as well. Can you hear me, Shona?
Yeah, I'm good.
There we go. All right, let's try this. Hopefully, there we go. So it looks like it is sorted. We've changed mics on my side as well. And we were just talking about the importance, obviously, with regards to injury prevention and the performance. Let's talk about the prehabilitation and injury prevention side of doing strength training and the importance of it.
Yeah, that's what I say. Is that running is such a repetitive, continuous sort of motion. I mean, especially something for comrades, where it's ultra marathon sort of levels and the distances that guys are doing and the mileage that guys are doing in their training. It's so important to ensure that the muscles and the joints and all the areas that are needed for running are stronger, so that we can sustain the loads that are sort of imposed from the running because of that repetitive motion. There's also, different biomechanical imbalances. Everyone has them. No athlete or no runner is perfect, and everyone's going to have these biomechanical imbalances, muscle imbalances, and we use strength training to try and reduce those, so that you can have some good form, and so that we then reduce the overall injury sort of prevalence that comes through.
All right, just on the technical issues, I see Boma is saying that the slides are blurred. Boma, we're broadcasting in HD, so it's definitely a setting on your side. I see everybody else saying they're fine. So, Boma, unfortunately, if you've got a slow internet connection, Facebook throttles it. So it'll be from there. We will make the slides available after the fact as well, and it will be on what's the word I'm looking for? On the replay as well. So there you go. Let's talk about the sort of specifically from an injury. Oh, mind you, we've done that one. Let me go back to performance. Let's talk about performance, Shona, and sort of how doing strength training can really improve your performance.
Yeah, I mean, taking the injury prevention aside, you're essentially getting the opportunity to do something to improve your running that isn't running. So it seems like a win-win. You're getting something for free that isn't running. And if we think about the elites aren't good at running because of their VO2 max. I mean, yes, they do. They have high VO2 max, but really it comes down to like their running economy. And one of the things that we look at, if I talk about running economy, think about the fuel economy in your car. How far can you travel by using as little amounts of fuel? And it's the same for runners. It's the less fuel utilization you can have, running at a higher intensity. That's really what we're looking for. And something like strength training has shown to improve this running economy or this utilization of fuel by up to 4 to 5%. So you're essentially getting something for nothing just by not doing more running. Just also from a performance point of view, obviously it makes sense, something specific to comrades and in particular, and we'll go into this a little bit more detail, but on the down run is just having your body prepared in a much better sort of way so that you're able to tackle the day and have that performance impact coming in on the day, especially with the loading that happens on the down run. So that definitely has a massive effect on the day.
All right, let's talk about specifics. Not all Comrades marathons are created equal. Shona, the up and the down run is very different, and that means obviously the strength training we need to do for each is slightly different as well. Let's talk specifically the down run and strength work.
Yeah, exactly, Brett. I mean, the down run, I guess there are so many ups in the down run until you get to the massively down part. But you have to be strong enough to sustain those climbs in the beginning. But then when you're getting to that down part, your muscles are contracting in the sort of, we call it eccentrically. So what that means is normally when your muscle contracts, it shortens and contracts at the same time. But when you're running downhill, what's happening is that particularly like your quadriceps are lengthening and contracting at the same time. So we have to prepare the body to sustain that, especially when you're 60 kilometers into a race. And so by doing this sort of work within your strength training, you're really, really building a resilience for these downhills as you get a little bit more fatigued and hitting these downhills later on in the race. The problem with this sort of eccentric training is that it's not just something I'd recommend that guys just download a whole bunch of stuff and dive straight in, because it does make you quite sore. The same way the running downhill after Comrades makes you so sore, the strength training is going to do the same thing. And so, I really recommend that the guys start slowly. And the key point there would be to build a strength base first. Don't just dive right into doing some massive eccentric step downs or squats, because you can get quite stiff and sore from them. So make sure you have a really good base of strength first before you diving into that. And yeah, that in the hope is that we really getting you resilient to tackle these downhills in the Comrades Marathon down run.
Yeah, and you mentioned the building a base. It's like running. The last thing you want to do is go and jump and do tons of stuff up front. Let's talk about the sort of frequency. We've got some great questions coming through, let's talk about, you've got an acronym, and let's talk through that with regards to strength training. Obviously, the first one is F for frequency.
Yeah, I mean, these are general basic principles of training, and these apply to most things, and you'll see there's correlations between what we're talking about with your running program and then with your strength. But yeah, frequency, people are always asking, well, yeah, strength work is important, but how many times should I be doing this? And I say 1 to 2 times a week is fine. Up to 3 times a week can be very beneficial as well, depending on the sort of level runner you are. But if you're starting out from nowhere and you have never done strength work before, and particularly in this phase of where we are with Comrades training, if you haven't done anything before, I'd say once a week. And then post Comrades, you can start then, building that base again in your preparation for 2021. But 1 to 2 a week is ideal for the mass sort of recreational runner. And yeah, I wouldn't say that you dive straight in and like I said, dive into 2 sessions. But again, get going with some, and once a week is better than no times a week as well. So yeah, I definitely think that's a good place to start. When you're talking about intensity, a lot of guys are doing other things other than Comrades. So whether it's a CrossFit or a HIIT class or a switch class, and you want to add that with your strength work, a lot of the intensity you want, we don't want to be having too much of that high intensity work, because you're going to be getting a lot of that in your running and in your quality sort of hills and speed sessions. And so, yeah, the intensity shouldn't be at an absolute high intensity, but sort of base strength work, I think would be good. When we're talking about time, how much time should you spend in these 1 to 2 weeks per session? Anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes, I think, is sufficient, and I don't feel that we need to be doing much more than that. I mean, obviously, if you are doing something that's got a nice long yoga or mobilization before the strength work, I think that's awesome. But yeah, 30 to 60 minutes. When you start getting in the routine of it, it actually goes quite quickly, and then you can actually start adding in more days per week. So 1 hour once a week is a great place to start. And then the type, I mean, there are so many different types of strength training, but like we've been sort of speaking about, it's about building a nice base of strength, and then, sort of complementing that with different other modalities to help with things that are specific to this race, like the eccentric sort of strength work that we're doing.
Shona, let's talk. A couple of people are asking, like, what's good, what's bad, what should we be doing, what shouldn't we be doing. We've got a couple, and people are asking for specific exercises. So we're going to share a couple with you in a mo as well. So don't worry about that. That's coming up. How much and when is the big question. I mean, where do we fit this into our training? Is it on days we run? Is it on days we rest? How do we need to do this?
Yeah. So how much and when? So one to two times a week, and I think where in the plan is a good question. So, I mean, ideally, I personally don't like having the strength work set up the day before a quality session, and a quality session being like a hills or a speed or some sort of tempo sort of work. I wouldn't do it the day before that session. It just puts you at a little bit higher risk of an injury. So make sure that you're not doing it, especially if you haven't done much strength work before. But yeah, I'm happy for those strength sessions to take place before any kind of long runs. If you're running a little bit on tired legs from your strength work on a long run, those runs should be easy enough that isn't an issue, or that you start warming up and getting into the run a little bit slower. That shouldn't be an issue. So yeah, I just focus on when you're doing that run and try not to get that just to really put a lot of strength work in before you're doing a quality session.
Right. And you also mentioned the sort of building up slowly and making sure that you're doing jumping. Let's talk about overloading and progression, the best sort of way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way that we do that with our running programs. You know, we build for a couple of weeks and then we have a bit of a recovery. I mean, the concept is pretty similar. If you're new to strength work, I would suggest that you stick to a particular program for a couple of weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, to start seeing some kind of change before you change it up completely, because then you're creating a new stimulus and you're going to have, the body's going to have a different effect, and so it's going to fatigue a lot more. So just ensure that progression is consistent. You know, we constantly talking about consistency in our running, and it needs to be the same with strength. If you're doing 2 sessions a week for 2 weeks and then you're skipping it for 4 weeks and then coming back, you're going to start getting really stiff and sore, and that's going to affect your running. So try and keep that consistency. And then gradual build-ups. You know, just make sure that you're not doing something that's out of your sort of scope or realm of your strength work and your level. Make sure that you're sort of controlling that load well enough. And the best way to start is just doing some body weight stuff. I mean, that's essentially what running is. It's ensuring that we, you know, can move our body. And if we can't even do that when we're standing in a gym or in your house doing your own strength work, then you can't expect that it's going to be able to sustain that for 90 odd kilometers. So I'd really just recommend starting with that, just starting with the body weight work, and you can do that for a couple of weeks, even up to 12 weeks before you start adding on extra loads as you know, sort of free weights and other kind of weights.
Yeah, Sean, lots of questions about that. Do we need to go to a gym? Do we need to do this? Like, is it body weight? And we'll get into a lot more questions now. So please do keep the questions coming, because we're going to give you some examples of exercises. But Marissa was asking, she says, what type of strength training can one do? Can you do it at home without gym equipment? Because I think that's one thing that people really struggle with. They think strength training, you need to be pushing weights. But all our strength training programs that we're going to share tonight, plus the ones that we've got on our training platform, are pretty much all body weight, and you can do them at home. You don't need expensive equipment, so there's really no excuse why you shouldn't be doing them.
Yeah, exactly. And the little equipment and the doing it at home, it's convenient. You can do it in front of the TV if you really want. You can do it with your kids, your husband and wives or partners. Definitely. There's always an excuse why not to do strength training, so we're trying to make it that easy for people to not make that an excuse anymore. And that we've seen to be very, very beneficial and helpful to the guys. It's about, you know, it's that rather doing something than doing nothing, and making sure that that's done. But you can be as effective with the exercises that you do. It doesn't need to take place in the gym at all.
Yeah, absolutely. We've put together a strength training program for you that you can download for free. All you need to do is head over to that URL. Okay, it's coachparry.com/strength. If I could ask someone, if you wouldn't mind just typing that into the comments so that people can click through. It's coachparry.com/strength. That's where you can download it. So coachparry.com/strength. And then, Shona, let's talk about the key exercises. These are some of them. There's obviously more in that training program, which you can download. But let's talk about the one which is, you need to be a bit of a masochist, the Bulgarian squat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a squat lunge type exercise. The importance of a lot of these exercises is, if you think about running, if you really slow the running down and you analyze it biomechanically, for a short portion of time, you're in the air and you're landing on one foot. And so that's why we like to put in a lot of single leg kind of work. What's important about this exercise is that it's really, really going to work on the posterior chain or the back. So the back, the glutes, the hamstrings, and that's really, really key for runners. So what I'd be looking at there is just with your technique, because again, with every single one of these exercises, if the technique isn't great, you're just, sort of reinforcing bad habits and bad technique, and that's also going to be a risk for injury. So just make sure that front knee, if you watch on the right-hand side there, doesn't go over the toe. So it's really important that you try and keep that leg as parallel to the ground, or sorry, not parallel, that's a bad example, but sort of 90 degrees to the ground as far as possible. And you want to have a nice straight back. And keeping the shoulders back in a nice posture, so no sort of crouching down and over and leaning forward, just keeping that technique nice and strong. And a really good cue for people just to remember is that front foot is push all the way through the heel, because then you're really going to be firing up the glutes and the hammies, which is really what we're looking for.
Perpendicular, parallel, same thing, Shona.
That's the word. Thank you. Perpendicular.
Same, but different.
It's only Tuesday, Brad. It's only Tuesday.
same, but different. All right, let's talk about the eccentric calf raises. These also are, make a huge difference.
Yeah, so talking about that eccentric bit, so again, ensure that you have a bit of a base work and you've done normal calf raises before you dive straight into these. And if you have, some kind of predisposing injury or something, just make sure you're speaking to your physio and then before you're diving into these sort of exercises. But as you would do a normal calf raise, this is almost a little bit in reverse. So you're going to push up onto your toes and you're going to slowly come down. It's best to do it on a step, so you're getting a really nice sort of range of motion, really pulling the calf into full range. And it can be done with a weight if you are experienced in this exercise as well. But I'd focus on that. You can keep the knee of the standing leg slightly bent, not too straight, just so that it's activating the right kind of muscles.
All right, and then the next one it starts with one and obviously progresses to the next, the hip raise, and then you'll work through towards a hip march. Talk us through these two, Shona.
Yeah, so I mean, my biggest thing with any runner is that they have zero hamstrings, and everyone focuses on quads, but glutes, hamstrings, lower back, all really, really, really important for injury prevention and performance. So that first exercise there, the hip raise, lying on your back, nice and controlled. Sorry, I think my light has just gone off. Let me just...
No, it's all good, Shani. You're not on camera, so it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, good.
There we go. Let's just come back on.
Yeah, there we go. So you're wanting to control the core quite nicely. So what I would suggest before you raising your hips is suck your belly button into the ground, as deep into the ground as you can. And as you do that, then you raise your hips up to make a straight line between the hips and to the knees. Again, just pushing those heels into the ground to fire up the hamstrings and the glutes, holding for 1 to 2 seconds and bringing back down. I mean, there's many progressions on this that we can do, but this is a great way to get the hammies and glutes going, which I know most runners really, really struggle with. And then progressing it, that's just an example of a progression that you can do, which really is quite specific to running and what you're doing. And the importance about that is that you're controlling that pelvic stability, which is what runners really struggle with, and we're working on that in that hip march over there. So you're wanting to make sure that the hips stay up and stable, and that one side isn't dropping down more so than the other. And just nice and controlled. Try not to scrounge up in the neck and keep everything up here. Everything needs to be coming from the core, and the core being the entire trunk, not just the front of the abs, is what people kind of think.
All right, then the next one is step up or eccentric step up and eccentric step down, and this one is really important for the down run.
Yeah, so the step up, we wouldn't necessarily do that eccentrically, but the step up is what you can see in that video. Probably a key exercise for the up run and general strength. I mean, I don't think you should do one year and one on the down run, but that's a really, really key exercise. When you're doing that as an eccentric step down, you'd pretty much do that in reverse. So you'd be standing on the box and slowly lowering yourself down. And what I find is rather put the foot in front of the box. It's a lot easier to lower yourself down from there, and take a few seconds to do that. Just count to 3 to 5 seconds as you're going down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then stepping back up and continuing it. That is a really, really key exercise. But I'd again ensure that you have a nice base and try and throw that into your training at least once a week. Definitely will be beneficial for you.
And then this one is also works. It doesn't look that bad, but it is seriously tough to do, and it really works. Is the sort of side bridge with a half leg raise. This is a toughie and really, really works.
Yeah, I mean, my athletes always say to me, they're like, what's longer, a microwave minute or a bridging minute? And they if you're waiting for your pizza to warm up or your prone bridging to finish, it is a toughie, but it's a toughie because it's muscles that we don't use all the time. And again, this is focusing on that pelvic stability and the muscles on the side of your abs and your trunk to ensure that we can create strong pelvises so that as you're running, we can sustain those loads. And so there, you're wanting to just make sure that your shoulder, your hip, and your knee are in a straight line. Try not to have a sort of curve in your body. So you don't want your body like that. You want everything nice and straight. And also not in your shoulder that you're up here. You're wanting your body weight over the shoulder directly, pulling up and squeezing in the side of the abs, and then lifting that leg. So bend your bottom leg so it gives you a little bit more stability. If you find that too easy, you can straighten that bottom leg. But as a starting point, I definitely recommend it is a tough exercise. So start with that, and then just sort of abducting or lifting the leg up and down, just to help, with a bit of strength on the inner thigh and hamstrings and again that pelvic stability. So I think that's, Brad, this is a snapshot of some of the exercises that I think are key. I mean, obviously there's regressions of these, there's progressions of these, depending on where people are at and what they're doing and what they have done. And I think where we are in the Comrades block now, it really is key Comrades training time, and I wouldn't be changing too much from a strength point of view. If you have never done it, I think start adding it, but don't go absolutely crazy and mess up what the really important stuff is from a running perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to everyone who did pop that link in the comments. CoachParry.com/strength is where you can download that free strength training program now. There's videos. It also talks you through each of the exercises. So definitely go check that out. CoachParry.com/strength. Some great questions, Shona, with regards to strength. Please do keep them coming, and we'll answer as many of them as we possibly can. One from Bolo King saying, is it advisable to continue 2 or so sessions of strength training while tapering during race week? What's the deal? Obviously, we're going to be running marathons and ultra marathons as training runs in the build-up to Comrades. Do we stop strength training in those weeks? And then also in the final couple of weeks leading into Comrades, how do we taper our strength training like we taper our running? What's the deal?
Yeah, I love that question. I'm glad it came up. I didn't mean to speak about that with the rest and recovery stuff earlier, but it's exactly right. As you're tapering your running, as you're leading up to your goal race, or if it was your seeding race or your qualifying race, you would taper your strength work as well. So I'd recommend that for your marathons and definitely for Comrades that you 10 to 14 days out. You can, if you're doing 2 sessions a week, you can drop that down to 1 session. But definitely from 10 days out, no strength work before Comrades, and before your qualifying marathon. That would be good because you're wanting to be as fresh as you can on the day. When you're running marathons and races in the week that you're using as training runs and not necessarily racing those, then I think you can definitely keep going with the strength work. But it's important, again, just to make sure that you're periodizing or building that up well, so that as you're building up your running, so if you're going week 1, week 2, week 3 building up, and in week 4 you're recovering, make sure you're doing the same thing with the strength work as well. I think that's really, really key.
All right, question from Paul, and Mike Smuts was asking a similar question. For those guys going to gym and actually doing weights, what should they be doing? Paul's asking, for strength training, should I do low weight with high reps, or should it be heavier weights with lower reps?
Yeah, I think one that depends on your time of season, and so we're going into peak Comrades running sort of stuff now. So you don't want to be doing very heavy loads and shorter reps. I would say higher rep load with a lighter weight. And then when you coming out of Comrades and you've come out of hibernation and you're starting your plans for 2021, that's when you'd be doing more of the heavy load and the lighter the shorter reps, but more the heavy load, because then you're really building on strength and hypertrophy. So you're wanting to do that maybe towards the end of the year, and then as you're coming into more of your running stuff, you can keep that at a higher rep load, but a bit of a lighter weight. And the exercises that you do, they're the same sort of concepts of exercises, but just with the load. So your squats and your Bulgarian squats and your step ups and all of those can be done with the weight. But yep, higher rep load and lower weights in this time.
Cool. This isn't a question, it's just a comment, but I'm gonna pop it in because I think it's pretty cool. KG Selo Bojo, who is part of team coach Parry, says he's been following Shona's programs and they are truly easy to follow. So there you go, Shona. There's a double thumbs up from KG. KG, thanks for being in touch and letting us know that. Question from Tinus. Tinus wants to know, and I saw there was another question along the same lines. Tinus wants to know, what's your view on EMS training for strength training? For those of us who don't know what EMS training is, can you give us the layman's version, and does it count? Is it the same as doing the strength training you're talking about?
Yeah, so I'm assuming it's the electromuscle stimulation. So it's the body 20s, and they essentially do sessions for you with they last about 20 minutes, and they put electrodes on you and they electrically stimulating your muscles while you're doing those sessions. In my experience, there isn't a lot of, well, let me put it this way, there isn't a lot of science out there at the moment that's saying that they're very risky or that you're higher risk of injury or that it doesn't work. What I have just found with guys who are doing it is that you get very, very stiff from that session, even though it is only 20 minutes long. So in my opinion, I don't have any issues with the guys doing the sessions or the exercises that they're doing, but I just find that it makes you quite stiff and sore, so it affects your other sessions in the week. So if you're enjoying it though, and you feel like you've adapted and you're not getting as sore, I can't see why that is an issue. I would just be wary of the muscle soreness that can set in and how that's affecting some of your other runs. But again, for me, it's a matter of some strength work, and strength work that's been done well with good technique and good instruction is definitely better than no strength work at all.
All right, great question, Tinus. Another fabulous question from Bolo Kang. And this one, it's weird because you think you're running, it's all lower body, but I ran my first marathon for a few years last weekend, and I could not get over how sore my shoulders were and my arms. Bolo Kang wants to know, how important is upper body strength for a race like Comrades?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You've hit the nail on the head there, Brad. You've stolen my answer, so thanks for that. But no, it is so important, because so much of what we do when you're running is about your posture as well. So making sure that upper body is not going to be the fatiguing factor for you in your race is a key component, but definitely the posture aspects of it. So if as you're starting to fatigue, that starts to happen, and then you start to drop in the pelvis, and then that changes your whole way you're running. So it is really, really important. Brad, for you, I mean, in this example, you're a very tall guy, and that would have just happened naturally just the more you started to fatigue, and some really good strength work to ensure that the good posture and the good upper body endurance would have definitely contributed. Of course, we do focus on the lower body and on that pelvic girdle and making sure that that's all nice and strong, but everything is linked, and if we're not working on one thing, it's going to have a ripple effect down the chain or up the chain. So it is important, but obviously the priority is around certain areas a little bit more.
Right, cool. I see we are running out of time. If you've got any questions, please do pop them into the comments below. This is an interesting question from Komotso. Komotso wants to know about ankle weights and running with them. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Should I be doing it? And if I should be, how long should I be running with them for?
I would say I wouldn't recommend that. I think what you can get the strength that you're looking to build with that in the sessions and in the gym. I think when you're running with ankle weights, and maybe Linz can also weigh in here if he wants to, but you're changing the way your not natural biomechanical, the natural way you run, and by adding in those weights, that's going to have an effect, and that's you essentially then repeating a bad habit, and I think that would put you at a little bit more risk for injury. So if you're wanting to get a little bit stronger, I'd rather do the strength sessions and then keep the running as two components.
Lindsay, you got anything to add on to that?
No, it's 100%. I mean, the other thing that I would be very careful of when you do stuff like that is that your body is not accustomed to working against the increased gravity. Hopefully I'm making sense, but essentially what you're doing is you're taking muscles that aren't prepared for something and you're grossly overloading them. So you're opening yourself up to all sorts of joint and tendon ligament injury. So no, that's quite a bad idea.
All right, cool. Borderkang wants to know, what's your thoughts on deep tissue massage during Comrades Race Week? Is it a no-no?
Yeah, I would say no, especially if you haven't done a lot of massage in your training leading up to Comrades, because deep tissue massage is going to have a very effect on the body, and you want to go into that race very, very fresh. So I would definitely recommend massage in the build-up and as you're training. I think it's an excellent form of recovery, and obviously the more you do that, the more your body gets used to it, and the easier it is for your body to deal with it and helps with recovery and aids with that. But in the week of Comrades, I would only do that if you have followed the same sort of thing throughout your training. But in that week, I would say that the masseuse mustn't do a deep tissue massage. It must be more light, so that just in case they don't go too deep and then you sore on race day.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep those questions coming. We've still got a few minutes to answer a few more. So if you've got a question that you'd like to get in, make sure you do pop them into the chat box. I've also just shared a whole bunch of links in the chat as well. I mentioned that Comrades Strength Training Plan again. If you want to grab it, coachparry.com/strength is where you can find it. We've also got weekly audio podcasts, Ask Coach Parry, as well as Run with Coach Parry. You can find those at coachparry.com/podcast. We also create weekly videos, which you can find at coachparry.com/YouTube. Go find those as well. And then there's a whole bunch of resources on comrades.com as well. You can get all those details there. Ladies seminars coming up as well. And then looking at the Bonitas Comrades Marathon webinars, the next one coming up in a month from now. And then there's also Bonitas Novice Workshops, the first of which is coming up at the end of March, Tuesday the 24th of March. That one's happening at RAC, the Rand Athletic Club in Gauteng. And then the next one is happening in Port Elizabeth on the 1st of April. There are a whole bunch more as well. If you get to comrades.com, you'll be able to see those. But those are the two that are happening between now and the next Comrades webinar. And as you all know, training for Comrades is extremely hard. It's a massive commitment of time and money. Everyone's an expert, as you'll know. If you're on social media, you'll hear 1,000,001 different things and different ways to train. And you always, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm constantly second guessing myself. You never know if what you're doing is right and if it's something you should be doing or if it's something you shouldn't be doing. And I want to ask you to imagine a place where you can get access to Comrades Training Plan that tells you exactly what you need to run every single day and at what pace those training runs need to be done at. You get access to a team of qualified coaches. You also get access to a group of runners just like you who are able to motivate you and help keep you accountable in your journey to Comrades. And that's exactly why we built the Coach Parry Online Training Club. It gives you access to all of that, also through a very interactive and easy to use iOS and Android app as well. You get Comrades training plans across the board with the paces from silver all the way through to Vic Clapham. So we've got you covered. It doesn't matter what pace you're running at. And it'll tell you exactly what paces you need to be running at. Access to the coaches, so you can chat to them in our forums every single day if you want to get reassurance, to get the help you need from qualified professionals. You also get access to our weekly members-only calls. They like these, except they're a lot smaller and a lot more intimate, so you get a chance to chat to the coaches and get your questions answered, and you also get motivation and accountability. We've got over 1,000 other runners that are training on those training programs from around the world. It doesn't matter where you are, we've got access you've got access to the coaches through that. If you want to, you can check out the Comrades training roadmap, follow a training plan that's proven, it's backed by science, and gives you direct access to the expert that wrote it. No more guesswork. It's like taking out a bit of Comrades Marathon insurance. And if you want to find out more about it, all you need to do is head over to coachparry.com/roadmap. All right. Question, Lindsay. Every year we get this question from someone in the Netherlands. This year it's from Jannie van Lochrenberg. He says, I live in the Netherlands. It's very flat. I use a treadmill for hill training. What's the best way to prepare for the big 5 hills? Speeds and 3.5 degrees, or slow and 5 degrees? Jannie, first of all, I want to break the news to you. There are the big 5 hills, but there are a lot more hills than just those 5. So that's important to note as well. Lindsay, hill training for people who live in very flat places like the Netherlands?
Yeah, look, a treadmill obviously becomes a very good option, and I would look at it from 2 perspectives. And nowadays more and more treadmills are coming with a downhill function. So if you set a treadmill on a random function and did some of your easy runs on the treadmill too, and set it up so that you ran up and down much like you would in a normal training session, that'll be good. And then in terms of formal hills, assuming that you don't have a treadmill with an up and down function, then you would follow the advice on the training program, which is to set the treadmill on 4% and do your 2-minute hill repeats on 4%. And then for your easy recovery, you would make that treadmill flat and run about 220, 230 on 0%, and about 20 to 30 seconds slower than you were running than the prescribed paces when you're running up the hill. So yeah, I can definitely recommend doing that. And then obviously we've had a whole webinar on strength training, but definitely strength training as well as cycling can also help to build strength for hill work.
Cool. Great question from Mike, Lindsay. And I'll stick my hand up here. I've been talking about it, that I'm planning on going back to Comrades 2020. But obviously qualification is the issue. Mike wants to know, for those who've been unsuccessful till now in qualifying, how do you decide whether to rather set your goals for next year's Comrades, or should you keep pushing through? There was a second part of the Comrades, or whether you should push through and hang in there for this year's race.
So look, I think again these are questions that do need a little bit of individual unpacking, because it would depend on a couple of things. It would depend how close you got. It would depend how sore you were after that attempt, so that we could make a calculated decision on whether another attempt that will make you very sore and how much time that potentially means that you miss out on. And also, where do you live? Because there are options like doubling your Comrades qualifier up with another event. So for example, you may either do a 48k race, so to double up as one of your ultras and a qualifying event, or you may do a sub 5-hour marathon. So you might not have got the Comrades qualifier, but you've got a sub 5-hour qualifier, and you perhaps go and run 2 oceans, and you get your qualifier 2 oceans. So there are a couple of ways of skinning that cat, and I think there just needs to be a little bit of case-by-case analysis on that. But certainly you can qualify right up until the 3rd of May, and as long as that qualifying effort doesn't break you, you could then still go on to run and finish Comrades. So yeah, I would normally say that yes, if you haven't qualified yet, that it's not a disaster. But obviously, the closer you get to the 3rd of May, the harder it then becomes.
Yeah, Lindsay, you talk about qualifying at the sort of last possible opportunity. A good example would be someone who's member of the Coach Parry Online Training Club, Nabila Mula, who last year struggled with a bit of injury and really pushed that qualifier out as late as possible. I think she only snuck in on that last weekend, that first weekend in May, and went on to finish Comrades. So that's, I mean, there's a prime example. It's not the norm, but it is possible. So as long as you keep showing up, like you said in the beginning, from particularly the guys and girls who are training for Vic Clapham, just showing up week after week, doing that 40 to 60 Ks a week, and giving it your best shot. Obviously not racing a marathon as hard as you can every second weekend, following marathons around the country to try and qualify, but be strategic about it, do the training, and give it your best shot at the one or two opportunities that you have.
Yeah, I mean, that's I would agree with that 100%. I think, yeah, that's why I say it really depends on exactly each person's unique history, what else they've achieved, how good, how well, how successful you've been, say, at your 510s and 21s, because it might just be that struggling to qualify comes down to pacing rather than training or nutrition. So it really depends on exactly why it is that you haven't been able to qualify as to when it's time to pull the pin.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you need help, if you'd like some of that, all you need to do is head over to coachparry.com/roadmap. Shona, last question for you before we wrap things up from Jan. Jan's saying, what about compound exercises like squats, deadlifts, etc.? I'm fairly experienced with weight training, not with running so much.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, that's exactly it. Squats, deadlifts, definitely awesome exercises. They're in every program I write. Yeah, so if you're experienced enough to do that and your technique is sound, then definitely keep doing them. And yeah, because I think they complement the running massively. So yeah, get Lindsay to help you with the running stuff to get you in the same sort of level of experience as you feel about your strength training. But yeah, those compound exercises are awesome, and I'd definitely recommend them.
All right, fantastic. Don't forget the next Bonitas Comrades Marathon online webinar happening on Monday, the 6th of April, 8 p.m. GMT +2. That's Central African time. If you want to register for the next one, coachparry.com/webinar is where you can register for it. Thank you very much to Bonitas for making this webinar series possible. It is hugely appreciated. I know Lindsay loves chatting to runners around the country, and this just allows us to sort of spread that reach a little bit further outside of the borders of South Africa as well, which is pretty cool. And a big thank you to Shona for joining us on her first webinar tonight. Shona, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the experience. We did have one or two technical glitches, but we managed to sort that out on the fly. Thanks for your time tonight, and we look forward to catching up in the forums on the Coach Parry app.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. I mean, I loved it. It's always good to speak to the peeps.
Right, Lindsay Parry, parting shot from you.
We are in Comrade season now, so look after yourself. Start being a little bit paranoid about shaking hands. I think with everything going on in the world right now, that's probably good advice anyway, but stop shaking hands, bumping elbows, keep your hands clean, perhaps look at increasing vitamin C dosage and or multivitamin, but eat well, train consistently, focus on getting enough sleep, and most of the other things should fall into place.
Yeah, absolutely. Lindsay, thank you very much. And from me, thank you for listening. If you wouldn't mind letting us know in the comments what you got out of, what's the one thing you're taking out of tonight's webinar, let us know in the comments. And we look forward to seeing you at the next one. The replay will be up. I'll try and get that up this evening. If not, it'll be first thing tomorrow morning on YouTube. Just go to coachparry.com/YouTube. You'll be able to find it. And please let us know in the comments, what's the one thing you're going to be taking out of tonight's session? If you got anything out of it, please also share it with folks that you might know who are training or running for Comrades who might not have been on it tonight. Yeah, stay safe, stay well, and we look forward to catching up on the next one. From the three of us, it's cheers.